Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. When my wife, Laura, casually mentioned over breakfast that her ex, Eric, will be joining us for Christmas dinner, I nearly dropped a cup of coffee in my hand. She said so easily, as if she were announcing that we were out of milk or needed more wrapping paper. Be mature about it, she added, stirring her tea, not even looking up at me. Be mature about it. Those words stuck like thorns in my mind. For a moment, I thought she was joking, but the calm look on her face told me otherwise. My pulse quickened, and I set the cup down, forcing a shaky smile. You're serious? I asked. Yes, she replied, her tone perfectly neutral. He's in town visiting his mother. We're all adults here. I don't see why it should be a problem. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Laura and I had been married for 6 years. We had built a comfortable life together, with laughter, routines, and a sense of peace I had always thought was real. But in that instant, it felt like the ground shifted under me. The idea of her ex, someone she once loved, someone she shared history with, sitting at our Christmas table felt wrong in every possible way. I wanted to protest, to tell her that this was absurd, that inviting an ex to a family dinner wasn't mature. It was disrespectful. But instead, I bit my tongue. Maybe because I didn't want to sound insecure. Maybe because I didn't want to start a fight that early in the morning. So I nodded. Sure, I said, if that's what you want. Laura smiled, clearly relieved. Thank you. I knew you'd understand. Understand. That word echoed through my mind as I watched her leave the kitchen. She understood nothing about how this made me feel. The following days were filled with quiet tension. Laura was busy preparing for the holidays, decorating the house, wrapping gifts, and planning the dinner menu. She hummed Christmas songs as she moved around the kitchen, completely unaware or deliberately ignoring how distant I had become. Every time she mentioned Eric, something inside me tightened. I tried to act normal, but at night, when she fell asleep beside me, my mind wouldn't stop. I kept wondering why she needed him there. Was it nostalgia, pity, or something she hadn't admitted to herself? On Christmas Eve, I stood by the window, watching the snow fall outside, the street glowing softly under the lights. I thought about our first Christmas together. Back then, it had been perfect. Just the two of us, exchanging small gifts and sharing stories until midnight. She had looked at me with love in her eyes. I couldn't shake the question now. Did she still look at me that way? The next morning, the house was warm with the smell of cinnamon and roast. Laura was glowing with excitement, wearing her favorite red sweater and a smile I hadn't seen in weeks. He'll be here around 5, she said, checking her phone. Please, let's make this a pleasant evening. I didn't respond. I just gave a small nod and went back to setting the table. I chose the plates carefully, aligning the silverware, trying to distract myself with perfection. Inside, though, my stomach churned. 5 o'clock came faster than I expected. When the doorbell rang, Laura rushed to open it. I stayed by the table, my hands gripping the edge. I heard her laughter first, light, familiar. Then came a man's voice, deep and confident. When Eric stepped into the room, I immediately recognized the type. Tall, athletic build, the kind of guy who knew he made an impression. He carried himself with the relaxed ease of someone who had once belonged here. Laura introduced us. Eric, this is my husband, Daniel. Daniel, this is Eric. I forced a smile and extended my hand. His handshake was firm, too firm, and his grin carried just a hint of superiority. Nice place you've got here, he said, looking around. Thanks, I replied flatly. Dinner was unbearable. Laura laughed at almost everything Eric said. They shared old memories, inside jokes that I wasn't a part of. He talked about their college days, their trips, the time they got lost on a road trip, and ended up camping by a lake. She laughed, her eyes shining with a warmth I hadn't seen directed at me in a long time. I sat there, cutting my food into tiny pieces, pretending to listen, pretending to care. Every laugh between them felt like a needle. My chest tightened with a mix of jealousy and humiliation. At one point, Eric said, "Remember that Christmas we burned the turkey and ended up ordering pizza?" Laura laughed so hard she nearly spilled her wine. "Oh my God, yes. That was such a disaster." They shared a moment of silence after the laughter faded, and I could feel something unsaid hanging in the air, something only they understood. I looked at her then, really looked. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at him. The rest of the dinner blurred together. I nodded when expected, smiled when necessary. Inside, I was falling apart. When the plates were cleared and coffee was poured, Eric stood up and said, "This was great. Laura, really, it's good to see you doing so well." "You too," she replied softly. I walked him to the door, more out of politeness than anything else. He thanked me for the dinner and shook my hand again. "You're a lucky man," he said with a smirk that made my skin crawl. When I closed the door, I stood there in silence, my hand still on the knob. The warmth from the evening had vanished. The room felt empty, colder somehow. Laura came over, her expression unreadable. "That went well, didn't it?" I turned to her slowly. "Did it?" She frowned. "You were distant the whole night. I asked you to be mature about it." "Right," I said quietly. "Mature." She sighed and walked past me, muttering something under her breath. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, while Laura slept peacefully beside me. My mind replayed every word, every look, every laugh between her and Eric. I didn't want to admit it, but something had shifted between us tonight, and I wasn't sure it could be undone. The next morning, I woke to the faint smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. For a moment, I thought about pretending to stay asleep, just to delay facing her. But I couldn't. The heaviness in my chest wouldn't let me rest. When I walked into the kitchen, Laura was already there, still in her robe, sipping coffee while scrolling through her phone. She looked up briefly. "Morning," she said flatly, as if last night hadn't happened. "Morning," I replied, taking a seat across from her. The silence between us was suffocating. Every tick of the clock felt like a reminder of the distance that had quietly grown between us. Finally, she broke the silence. "You were really cold last night." Eric noticed. I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, did he?" She frowned, clearly irritated. "Daniel, I just wanted it to be a pleasant dinner. It wasn't supposed to be awkward." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You invited your ex-boyfriend to Christmas dinner. Laura, what exactly did you expect?" She put her cup down, sighing. "You're overreacting. Eric and I have been friends for years. There's nothing between us." I stared at her, trying to read the truth in her face. "Then why did it feel like I was invisible last night?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes shifted away, down to the cup in her hands. "You're making this into something it's not," she said quietly. But I couldn't stop the anger that had been simmering inside me since that dinner. He looked at you like he still had something to prove. And you looked right back at him like you missed it. Her lips parted slightly, and I could see her searching for words. "That's not fair," she whispered. "Maybe not," I said, "but it's true." We didn't speak for the rest of the morning. The house that once felt like home now felt like a stranger's place. Quiet, cold, and heavy with things unsaid. Over the next few days, I noticed subtle changes in her. She was on her phone more often, typing quickly and smiling at messages she never showed me. When I asked who she was texting, she brushed it off. "Just friend from work," she'd say. But I knew better. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But I couldn't ignore my instincts. One evening, when she went to take a shower, her phone buzzed on the counter. I didn't plan to look, but my curiosity, or maybe my fear, got the better of me. The message on the screen froze my blood. "Eric, had a great time catching up. Been thinking about you a lot lately." I didn't need to scroll further. My chest tightened, and a strange calmness took over me. I placed the phone back exactly where it was and sat in silence, waiting for her to return. When she came out, towel around her hair, she smiled at me faintly. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey." I replied, my voice controlled, almost too calm. I wanted to confront her right then, but part of me wanted to see how far she'd go, whether she'd confess on her own or keep pretending. That night, She turned off the lights and curled up beside me. I lay still, staring into the darkness, wondering how something that once felt so pure could decay so quietly. Over the following week, she started staying out late, blaming it on office deadlines and holiday projects. I didn't argue, but I noticed everything. The change in her perfume, the extra care she took with her appearance, the way she avoided eye contact when she came home. One night, she returned around midnight. Her cheeks were flushed, her smile faint. "Sorry, long night," she murmured, avoiding my gaze. "Did Eric enjoy your company?" I asked. She froze. "What?" "You heard me," I said, my tone calm but sharp. Her lips trembled slightly. "You went through my phone." "I didn't have to," I said quietly. "You're not exactly subtle." For a moment, she looked as if she might cry. Then her expression hardened. "Nothing happened," she said firmly. "We just talked. That's all." "Laura," I said softly, "you invited your ex to dinner. You've been texting him every night, and now you're coming home smelling like his cologne. You think I'm stupid?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Daniel, please. You don't understand. He's been going through a rough time. His mother is sick. I was just trying to be there for him." I nodded slowly. "And who's there for me, Laura?" She didn't answer. That night, I slept on the couch. I couldn't bear the thought of lying beside her. Days passed, and we moved around each other like ghosts. The laughter, the shared glances, the warmth, all gone. It was as if someone had quietly drained the color from our marriage. Then, one evening, everything shattered. Laura came home late again, and I was waiting for her in the living room. I'd lit no lights, just a dim glow of the street lamp spilling through the window. She paused at the door, sensing the tension immediately. "You're up?" she said quietly. "Yeah," I replied. "I wanted to talk." She sighed. "Daniel, please, not tonight." "No," I said firmly. "Tonight's exactly when we need to talk." She sat down slowly, avoiding my eyes. "I saw you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Her head snapped up. "What do you mean?" "I saw you at the cafe this afternoon. You were with him." Her lips parted, and the blood drained from her face. "You were holding his hand," I continued, laughing, "the same way you used to with me." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then tears began to roll down her cheeks. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she whispered. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I stared at her, numb. "You already did." She buried her face in her hands. He reminded me of who I used to be before everything got so routine. I didn't plan it, Daniel. I swear." I leaned back, exhaling slowly. "So what now? You want to go back to him? Relive your college memories while I sit here trying to forget this Christmas?" She shook her head, sobbing. "No, I made a mistake. Please, don't give up on us." I watched her cry, feeling both pity and exhaustion. I had spent years building a life around her, trusting that she would protect it as fiercely as I did. But she had opened the door to the past and let a ghost walk right in. "I need time," I said finally. "I can't just pretend this didn't happen." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Daniel, please." "Stop," I said quietly. "I'm not your emotional safety net anymore." The next morning, I packed a small bag and left the house. Not forever, not yet, just long enough to clear my head. I stayed at my brother's place across town, telling him I needed space. For the first few days, Laura texted and called, apologizing, begging me to come home. I ignored most of her messages, answering only when necessary. She said she ended all contact with Eric. I wanted to believe her, but trust, once broken, doesn't heal easily. Weeks passed. I started going to therapy, not for her, but for myself. I needed to understand why I had let her walk all over my boundaries in the name of maturity. My therapist told me something that stuck. Being mature doesn't mean accepting disrespect. It means recognizing when something is wrong and choosing yourself. Eventually, Laura asked to meet. I agreed, mostly out of curiosity about what she'd say. We met at a quiet cafe, The same one where I'd seen her with Eric weeks earlier. She looked nervous, older somehow, like she'd been carrying guilt on her shoulders. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. I nodded, saying nothing. "I've cut all ties with Eric," she said. "Completely. I've been going to counseling, too. I know I hurt you, and I know sorry is enough. But I don't want to lose you, Daniel." I studied her face, searching for sincerity. "Do you really mean that? Or are you just afraid of being alone?" She swallowed hard. "Maybe both," she admitted. "But I still love you." I leaned back, my mind heavy. "Love isn't what you say when things fall apart, Laura. It's what you protect before they do." She lowered her head, silent tears slipping down her cheeks. We sat there for a long time, saying nothing more. When I finally stood up, she reached for my hand again. This time, I let her, but I didn't promise her anything. Healing would take time, if it ever came at all. That Christmas had started with laughter, decorations, and the illusion of maturity. It ended with me realizing that maturity isn't about pretending you're okay with something that hurts. It's about having the strength to walk away from what doesn't respect you. As I walked out of the cafe, snow began to fall again, just like that night weeks ago. The world was quiet, peaceful even, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something close to peace too.